Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Good morning. So much to cover today. Nukes in space. Russian space nukes. That's a wild story. Another wild story which started happening after I got off the air yesterday was what happened at the Kansas City Chiefs parade yesterday. I know that hits home to you, Mac, because that's your town.
Yeah, it's my hometown. It's tragic, man. See a place that you grew up in, that you have good memories at, and see people running and screaming. That's terrifying.
And I relate to you on this one because I feel like I felt a lot of those same feels when the Boston Marathon bombing happened.
Yeah, of course.
Different circumstances.
Yes.
That was terrorism. This is not being viewed as terrorism. They're viewing it as criminal in nature. And there's multiple different reports on what the count was up to on injured versus dead. Did you see the final numbers on that?
I know last night when I finished my reporting, it was 22.
22 injured.
With one dead, yeah. And all the children, I believe it was 11 children, were expected to fully recover.
Good.
Yes, ages 5 to 16.
That's amazing. Now,
yeah, that's incredibly good news.
It's just crazy that it's like this is the state of affairs of the country where even a parade like that,
yeah,
you have to keep your head on a swivel.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I don't like these kind of big events going with my kids. Because you have to keep your head on a swivel. There's so many threats, whether it's just regular crime or you're worried about terrorism. You know, you've seen the trucks that drive through crowds in Europe and I mean, shoot, at the Christmas parade in Wisconsin.
Yep.
These things happen. It's terrifying. But the flip side of me is like, can we wait until we overreact? Like, it's bad that this happens. It's sad that this happens. But do we need to use it as political in nature? Like, can we let the victims recover before we start capitalizing on this for different things? Let me put it like this. I have a liberal friend who's on Instagram, radio DJ, has a significant audience. We had no idea what was going on, and he's posting a video going, "We need change. It's time for change." He didn't know how many shooters there were. He didn't know if it was criminal in nature. He didn't know if it was terrorism in nature. But he gets on social media and he starts calling for change. And it's like, bud, we have no idea what this is yet. And furthermore, what kind of change are you talking about? It seems like a lot of the left uses these incidents as a way to virtue signal, a way to push new legislation. I'm sure that we're going to see some sort of push for gun control in this situation, but we won't see any push for, actually taking crime serious in these situations. Because I'm of the opinion, if this is criminal in nature and the things that I'm seeing on the internet are true, it just goes back to the fact that criminals have been emboldened in this country to do as they please, and there's no consequences. There's just no consequences. And unfortunately, I feel like this is going to get brushed under the rug very quickly, much like the shooting at the Lakewood Church in Houston, the Joel Osteen Church, because that church shooting, as soon as it came out that it was a transgender individual who was abusing her child, everybody stopped talking about it. Everybody stopped talking about it. But will we see some sort of push for gun control because of this? Probably. Probably will. Are we going to see public officials coming out and saying we need to do something about gun violence? Yep. Probably. Probably will. That's one of those things that's going to happen. You don't let a good crisis go to waste. But they're not going to address the real fact of the matter that I'd be willing to bet the guns that were used were illegal. I heard reports of a long rifle. I also heard reports of handguns. But When you have the suspects in custody, why haven't we seen their mugshot anywhere? Why hasn't any mainstream media put their mugshot anywhere? Well, because it doesn't fit the narrative. The narrative is mass shootings, guns are evil, and that's going to be the narrative that's pushed. I will say this. I think a guy that should be celebrated is the guy that tackled the shooter. That guy's a hero.
Yeah, those two guys. Yep, absolutely.
100%.
Both of them, I want both of them to get authentic Super Bowl rings.
They should get Super Bowl rings. That would be such a good look.
Yeah.
They should be celebrated.
Yes.
Because in these times of uncertainty, having strong men willing to do the hard things at the risk of themselves is what we need. We need more strong men willing to run towards that kind of stuff. And I'm not even, and I'm not trying to, knock the police. The police were there. They were on the scene. They ran towards the gunfire as well. But this guy saw what was happening and he took action. And this is his story.
One guy was hollering and saying, stop him, or catch him, tackle him, whatever. And he's just bailing running. And out of nowhere, I heard that guy hollering. So I'm just like, okay, well, I'm right here, and I didn't even think about it. It was just a reaction. I didn't hesitate. It was just do it. So I went to go tackle him, and another gentleman did the same thing. And as I'm tackling him, I see his weapon either fall out of his hand or out of his sleeve because he was wearing a long jacket or like a Carhartt. So when I seen that hit the ground, I'm like, oh, we got to take this guy down. And so, like I said, I did, and another good Samaritan did, and we held him down. And it seemed like forever, but it probably wasn't. It was like 30 seconds holding him down. And me and the other gentleman are hollering at ongoers, where's the cops? Get the cops over here. Get the cops over here. We got him.
It's amazing. Paul Contreras was his name, correct?
Yep.
Hero.
Absolutely.
Hero. And he makes it seem like if the gun fell out of his jacket, fell out of his sleeve, sounds like that would be a handgun.
Yeah.
Not a long rifle. Which, again, will not fit the gun control narrative. It's I would argue it's probably going to be a illegally purchased handgun. I would be curious what the gang situation is in Kansas City. Was this a gang-affiliated beef? It just... There's so much to this that won't fit the narrative that I feel like we're not going to get into, that we won't get answers to. And the mayor, Quentin Lucas, said that the White House is already offering federal assistance in the investigation.
We've also received a call from the White House that offered all federal assistance in the investigation. We had federal agencies present today. We appreciate that, and certainly in the days ahead and the hours ahead, we will make sure we continue to do this work.
Yeah, so the White House is going to help with the investigation. They're also calling for gun control. Biden and Kamala Harris have called for gun control in separate comments after the shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs parade. Both of them. Biden issued a statement specifically recommending that lawmakers ban assault weapons, among other gun control laws, and asked that Americans across the country join him in this stance. He said, "It is time to act. That's where I stand. And I ask the country to stand with me, to make your voice heard in Congress so we can finally act to ban assault weapons, to limit high-capacity magazines, strengthen background checks, keep guns out of the hands of those who have no business owning them or handling them." I wonder if are these guns legally purchased? That's what I want to know, and I feel like that's a question that's never going to be answered. Where did this gun come from? Because if you're going to put more rules on people, the only rules that people are going to be affected are people that follow the rules. Law-abiding citizens will be affected by more laws. The criminals, the guys that were doing the shooting, spoiler alert, they already don't follow the laws. And we know that by the fact that they were shooting into a crowd. It's ridiculous. But they will use this to push for more gun control. They will. The president also said, Jill and I pray for those killed and injured today and for our country to find the resolve to end senseless epidemic of gun violence tearing us at the seams. Maybe if we had stricter penalties on criminals and we weren't letting them out of jail for low bail, no bail, maybe these guys could have already been in prison. Now, I don't know the individuals' backgrounds, and until more information becomes available, that's just speculation. But I do know that in many major cities, criminals are released and then they commit violent crimes again. We saw that in New York City. One of the migrants that beat the cops in New York was just arrested again for a shoplifting incident at a Macy's where they beat a security guard. There's no bail. There's no consequences. And when criminals don't have consequences, they tend to commit crime. It's a shocker. But this push for more gun control is only going to hurt law-abiding citizens. Strong men, good men, like the guy that tackled the shooter. So it really does bug me that this will be used as a rallying cry for more legislation. But at the same time, it's probably going to be swept under the rug before we know it. Seriously, it will probably not even be a conversation in the mainstream news by next week. Honestly, how long do you think this story is going to stick around? It doesn't fit any of the narratives that they want. Now, if it was a right-wing extremist with an assault rifle, it'd be wall-to-wall coverage, and we would have had his mugshot on TV last night. We would have known his name. We would have had social media accounts. We would have had everything on that person. But it looks like it's urban youths. It doesn't fit the narrative. It looks more like it is street crime, gang violence, something of that sort, criminal in nature as it's being reported, than anything else. So we won't know anything about them. We won't learn anything about them. And I feel like that's going to get memory hold. Just like the Lakewood shooting. Just like it. But they will try to use it to push for more legislation. That is for sure. You know, the woman that was killed in the Kansas City Super Bowl parade was a radio DJ.
Yeah.
Lisa Lopez Galvin. She leaves behind a spouse and 2 children. Super sad. Super sad. And I the fact that I push back against this and say that, like, I'm against that they're going to use this in a political nature, I don't want it to be construed that I'm not feeling for the victims. Because like I said to open it, when the Boston Marathon bombing happened, I had friends running in the marathon that day. I have family that runs in the marathon. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
Terrifying.
I know exactly what that feels like when it's like, dude, we just wanted to have some fun.
Yeah.
Why can't we have fun? But it feels like our cities are just falling apart. It feels like the nation doesn't have a grip on what used to make us great. Safety, security, being able to have those outlets to go enjoy your time with your family. My wife texted me. We were in Pittsburgh when the Penguins won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
We were living in Pittsburgh. And I literally had a conversation with her. I don't want to go to that parade. That was in 2016.
Yeah.
Because and that at the time, I think it was because we had seen all those truck attacks, I think in France and in Germany at the Christmas marketplace. I was like, why do I want to put my family in that line of fire? And it goes back to what I was saying the other day about the Super Bowl, feeling like that's been taken from me in this current culture because it's so woke and like I worry about the ads. I worry about watching that with my young kids. It's like, this is another thing that has been taken from us in current culture. We can't go enjoy ourselves and have nice things, and that's absolutely frustrating. However, I don't think blaming the gun is the right route. I think blaming the toxic culture is the right route. I think blaming the weak on crime attitude in many of these major cities is the right route. And the fact that we've enabled these people to go commit crimes and feel like there will be no consequences. That's where I'm at. On the way, I do want to talk about the Russian space nukes. Plus, George Soros bought a bunch of radio stations. Did you hear this? Old Georgie boy.
George
Soros is buying a bunch of radio stations. My uncle actually texted me, sent me a message on Instagram. My uncle's been in the weeds on a lot of this stuff for a long time. Like, if you think I got good takes, you would love my uncle. I'm telling you. He's like, no reservations. He'll just tell you how he's feeling.
He was in rabbit holes way before you were even born.
He dug the rabbit holes. So he was there with a shovel. So he sends me this, he's like, I know you've seen this. Pretty concerning. I looked at it. I wasn't too concerned. And I'll explain why.
Okay.
I'll explain why. We'll do Russian space nukes, then we'll do George Soros and why I'm not concerned.
Okay, great.
This is going to be fun.
I can't wait.
It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand here for my friends at Paul Winkler, Inc. Now, listen, it is an election year. A lot of people wondering what is going to happen in the stock market. So I want to tell you about a new workshop where you can learn exactly what's going to happen. It's from Paul Winkler. It's called Politics and Portfolios, How to Invest During an Election Season. And you can register for this webinar at paulwinkler.com/election. Now, as an actual client of Paul's, I got to tell you, I'm paid for these commercials. That's just the way it is. But if you listen to enough of the talking heads as to what financial advice you want, you're going to hear conflicting stories. You just will. Should you be looking to hold out of the market right now and wait, or should you be looking to buy? What happens if, I don't even want to say it. What happens if Biden wins? Ugh. Feels weird saying it. What happens if Trump wins? In this workshop, Paul is going to walk through historical data and look at the facts. We always talk about how Paul brings education to the table first, and this is exactly what he's doing in this webinar, and you might be surprised by some of the conclusions. So go to paulwinkler.com/election and register for this. It'll be live on February 23rd at 12 p.m., and if you can't make it live, they'll send you a link so that way you can watch the replay. It's paulwinkler.com/election. It's times like these where investors need to understand history. And you're going to learn a lot, too, because Paul understands the history. So this workshop is timely. paulwinkler.com/election.
Traffic problems. Sumner County, Highway 109 bypass southbound between Long Hollow Pike and Hancock Street is blocked. We've also got Cheatham County, injury crash, 24 westbound just past Springfield, Ashland City Highway 49, exit 24. Trial date set in the New York Trump hush money allegations case. There's also a case in Georgia with new developments. We'll tell you about it at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We were talking about the Kansas City shooting at the championship parade. And I made the note to Mac that, I kind of get where he's coming from because I felt the same way when I saw the Boston Marathon bombing. It's like, that's your hometown. You take it a little bit more personal.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Paul Winkler texted me.
Oh, wow.
He texted me during the break. He said, you may find this fascinating. From a research paper referring to the Boston bombing, it said people who actually witnessed these events in person were less traumatized than those who watched the coverage. And that's the hysteria built in, right? That's what the mass media does. And that's how they push these narratives. I thought that was fascinating. I was glad that Paul sent it in. He said, adjusting for pre-bombing mental health demographics and prior collective stress exposure, 6 or more daily hours of bombing-related media exposure in the week after the bombings was associated with higher acute stress than direct exposure to the bombings. Makes sense. It's 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$9:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes, and now it looks like we could have something else to vote for on Election Day, or not vote for, if you will. Middle Tennessee, specifically Nashville. Mayor Freddie O'Connell just announced a decision to pursue what he calls dedicated transportation and infrastructure funding on the November ballot. Former President Trump says this is a terrible time for our country, a real dark period for our country, after a New York judge rejected his request to toss the porn star Stormy Daniels' hush money case.
Everything that I've heard and read, even from legal scholars, said there is absolutely no case here. It's not a crime.
Instead, the judge set a trial date. Jury selection starts March 25th. And a team of lawyers for the former president set to attend a hearing in Georgia today to argue the validity of his 2020 election fraud charges amidst alleged misconduct from the Fulton County District Attorney handling the case. The judge going to hear an argument over whether Fani Willis should be disqualified from the case over her alleged romantic relationship with the prosecutor she hired and is paying for the case. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
9:37 on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. How are you doing? Hope your day is going good. It's Thursday, inching closer and closer to the weekend. Friday Eve, as Matt Murphy likes to call it.
Oh, yeah.
He loves that.
He loves calling that. He just won't stop saying it.
Every day. He's like, can't wait for Friday Eve. All the time.
And it's a beautiful Friday Eve. My gosh, it's gorgeous outside.
It is. You wouldn't even think that we're staring down the barrel of space nukes. You know what I mean?
Ah.
All right. So yesterday, as the show was coming to a close, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Turner comes out with what is a letter that's urging the president to declassify all this information related to a serious national security threat. On its face, I took this serious. We took it serious.
Absolutely.
I mean, off the air, I was like, are you seeing this? Are you noticing this?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? And we know that our southern border is wide open. We know that we have Chinese nationals coming across the southern border. We know that we have Middle Eastern war-aged men coming across the southern border. We know that we have bad actors coming across the southern border, possibly the northern border as well. Leaking. Our border is wide open. So that's where my head went at first. I said, I think I even made the joke. Like, couldn't have anything to do with the southern border, could it? Because of course we have these serious national security threats currently in our nation. I don't think we need to be told about it. But he's came out, Mike Turner of Ohio, and said, today the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence has made available to all members of Congress information concerning a serious national security threat. I'm requesting that President Biden declassify all information relating to this threat so that Congress, the administration, and our allies can openly discuss the actions necessary to respond to this threat. My head went to terrorism. It's hard not to. It's hard not to. It just seems like the natural thing. I feel like we've all been waiting for another shoe to drop for a while. They said it was a serious issue that could lead to a destabilizing situation and a national security threat, described as a potential foreign threat. But they wouldn't say where it was coming from at first. So again, my head goes to China. My head goes to EMP. My head goes to our electrical grid. That's where all of my thoughts go, naturally, instantly. Seconds after I see this. Like, geez, all right, what is it? Because none of those things would shock me. They wouldn't. In fact, I think a lot of those things are national security threats currently that we're just not paying attention to for whatever reason. Then we saw Mike Johnson come out, Speaker Johnson, and downplay this reported threat, saying there's no need for public alarm. No need. Like, it's going to be okay. So it's like, well, what is it? Nobody's saying anything. Then reports started to trickle out. And it turned out that the serious threat is about space nukes. To which pretty much the majority of conservatives looked at and said, oh, all right, don't care. Moving on. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Thanks for raising my blood pressure to tell me space nukes. Space nukes. Russia. Space nukes. Then I dig in on our boy, Mike Turner, who is he's the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Republican, out of Ohio. I just looked at his Twitter page, tapped that little media tab, and I see pictures of him shaking hands with Zelensky. Oh, it's all starting to make sense, is it not? The day after, or the day we're saying that Mike Johnson is not going to allow this aid package for Ukraine, $61 billion, to even come up for a vote, we get a warning of space nukes. Not that they're there. But that Russia wants space nukes. according to sources. That's from ABC. They say ABC says Russia would not be to drop a weapon on Earth, but to possibly use on satellites. Okay. Russia. So are you keeping score at home? There's a huge national security threat that the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Turner out of Ohio, who loves him some Zelensky, needed to tell everybody and needed to be classified immediately. And the national security threat was that Russia wants space nukes to shoot down satellites. Possibly, allegedly, according to sources. Convenient timing, right? So as soon as everybody kind of is done with Ukraine, doesn't want to send money to Ukraine, we get told space nukes. Space nukes. Pretty ridiculous. Pretty ridiculous. And of course, Russia wants space nukes. I want space nukes. Mac, do you want space nukes?
I'm in.
Everybody wants space nukes. And I would also lean on the side of we probably have pretty scary weapons that nobody talks about anyway. So this space nukes is just fear-mongering. Plus, don't we technically already have them? Like the hypersonic ballistic missiles, they shoot them into space. They can be a nuke. Space nukes.
Kind of like a space nuke.
It kind of sounds like a space nuke. So, Tim texted us. He says he wants space nukes too.
I mean, come on.
That's all I'm saying. It's a serious national security threat that Russia wants space nukes. It's a joke. It's a joke. And it's fear-mongering. And we're not dealing with any of the real problems that we have. We have terrorists coming across the southern border. Chinese nationals coming across the southern border. We know, guys, but get this. Russia might want space nukes. What is going on? It's like my head hurts.
Like we were actually scared for a minute.
Dude, I was
like, oh, wow. What do we need to do?
I looked at it and I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. Like, what do we need to do? Do we need to duck and cover? Like,
these are conversations. Well, duck and covering from a space nuke is not going to work. But before we knew that there were space nukes, where me and Mac are literally having conversations off the air like, okay, what is this? How do we cover this?
Yeah.
This just dropped. It's like the tail end of the show.
Yeah, we've got like a few minutes left. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, Murphy's going to have it. Brian's going to have it. And they made us do that for space nukes.
For possible space nukes.
Possible space nukes. Alleged. Alleged.
What a ridiculous clown show.
I know. And I know that we don't have Bruce Willis in the best shape anymore to send up there and deal with those threats. Also, I'd like to say that space nukes, weren't they making fun of Trump just a few years ago for creating the Space Force?
Oh, yeah, the Space Force.
When that was, oh, what a joke. Why would you make a Space Force? And now
remember that.
Now those same people are like, Russian space nukes. What are we going to do? Who do we call? So, are you guys willing to give $61 billion to Ukraine now? Because, space nukes. Also, this fear-mongering, it seems like the most ridiculous fear-mongering, because how would giving $61 billion to Ukraine help in the fight against space nukes?
Yeah, what?
Just doesn't.
John 4342 texted in, Matt, can we see if Russian space nukes are in fact real?
Yeah.
I'm on it, man.
Fact check it. But I mean, listen, there are actual serious, scary secret weapons Was it Marjorie Taylor Greene before she got elected was tweeting about Jewish space lasers? There are actual direct energy weapons that we know. The Havana syndrome weapons. There are scary top secret weapons out there that you might be able to get me on. Space nukes. Not going to get in on this one. Plus, if they want to sell it as, well, he's just going to knock out satellites. He's going to create an EMP. It's like, guys, our electrical infrastructure is weak. If you're worried about blackouts, then why are we letting Chinese nationals come across our southern border? Do you have any idea how weak and unprotected our electrical grid is? If you don't, I can assure you the Chinese do. If that's the big fear, I can assure you the Chinese know how weak it is and unprotected it is. Russians probably do too. Any bad actor probably has that on their target list pretty high. But, space nukes.
We had Andy text in 5868. Mike Turner's representative of Ohio, same district as Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. He's deep state puppet. I believe the elite are gearing up for a false flag attack on the U.S. and are already blaming Putin.
Well, that'd be one way to get out of the election in November.
Bingo.
4010 said space nukes. Sounds like something Dr. Evil would come up with in Austin Powers. Yep.
That's so true.
It does.
That's exactly right.
That's
a good one.
And I feel bad because somebody's watching this on the mainstream media and CNN. They're like, I knew that Putin was up to something. This is what him and Tucker Carlson probably talked about.
Ron texted in, space nukes, not a fan.
Not a fan. Not a fan of space nukes. No. 2919 said, I thought our biggest threat was white supremacists.
Bingo.
Yeah. White supremacists that deploy space nukes. It's what the white supremacists have been working on. Don't you understand, 2919?
They've been plotting.
This is what they do. This is, but there's all sorts of scary weapons that I'm sure militaries all over the world have and have been working on. Can they tell us something real? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give me something real.
Like 6890, like what they said. Sharks with freaking lasers on their heads. Come on, man.
Thank you. But all we get is space nukes. John says it's actually not a terrible name for a rock band.
I could see that.
Dude, have you heard the new one from Space Nukes?
Their new hit, man?
Yeah. Their album, EMP, is lit. 950 on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand here from my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. It's going to be getting freezing again this weekend, and then it's going to warm up again. It's that time of the year where the weather in Middle Tennessee is schizophrenic at best. It's hot, it's cold, it's hot, it's cold. Well, if your systems have not been serviced, you don't want to find out the hard way that they're not working, so get them serviced the best way with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. You don't want to wait for a problem to pop up this time of year. You got to be proactive. Keep your units in tip-top shape. Now, whether you need your annual maintenance or maybe you needed to repair your HVAC at the end of last season, and as we creep closer to, the summer months, you're like, I need to get it repaired before it gets hot. Call who I trust, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Now, whether you need that replacement or repair, these guys are the best, and if you do need to replace it, you're not going to find a better value on replacement systems. Busy Bee offers up to 12 months, no payment, no interest with approved credit, and you can sign up for a Beehive membership and get that extra affordability, like 10% off all repairs, no overtime charges, 24/7, and that thorough annual maintenance on your plumbing, heating, and air systems. Plus, they have convenient Saturday availability for those maintenance calls, so you'll never be left out in the cold. Busy Bee, your rude pro partner. Call them today for satisfaction guaranteed. 615-775-7833. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. 615-775-7833 or online at busybeehvac.com.
Traffic problems right now in Cheatham County. You got an injury crash. 24 westbound is just past Springfield, Ashland City, Highway 49, exit 24. Then in Sumner County, you got Highway 109 bypass southbound between Long Hollow Pike and Hancock Street. That is blocked due to a traffic issue. Here in Nashville, Mayor Freddie O'Connell just announced plans to pursue letting voters decide on a new effort to improve transportation and safety in Nashville. These stories and more coming up at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're looking at some of these texts from you guys about space nukes.
Some good ones.
There's some good ones. 3703 said, space nukes would be great. I'm ready for 1980 again. I feel like it'd be a little bit more like 1880.
Yes.
But I get where you're at. It was a simpler time. 0397 said, Rep Mike Turner is the burglar. Rubble.
2555 texted in, gay space frogs with lasers.
Yeah. Yep. Scary times that we're living in. Unrelated, 4209 texted, said, I procrastinated till yesterday and I got my wife a Black History Month card. She was not impressed. Did you hear what Brian Wilson said on the drive yesterday?
What did he say?
He said that one year for Valentine's Day, he messed up and he waited too long and he had to get a bar mitzvah card and make modifications. I think that's what that joke was referencing.
Oh, I love that.
Yep. Yeah. So on the way, we got Chris Spencer joining us. He's running for Tennessee State Senate in Sumner County and Trousdale County. He's going to talk to us about what's going on locally, and phone lines are open. If you have a question for Chris, he'll be happy to answer them. It's 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in Nashville, Mayor Freddie O'Connell just announced he wants a referendum on the November ballot to let voters decide this Choose How You Move plan, he says, will improve, expand, and deliver better sidewalks, signals, and safety. He did not answer specifically if it means taxes are going to go up. And outside a courtroom in New York this morning.
This is a terrible time for our country. This is a real dark period for our country.
A New York judge rejecting former President Trump's attempt to throw out the hush money case and has set a date for jury selection on March 25th. This will be the first criminal trial of a U.S. president. This case involves allegations of payoffs to alleged lovers to hide potential sex scandals from voters in the 2016 election. And right now in East Tennessee, there is a mystery. Channel 4 says a deputy has gone missing after telling dispatchers he was taking a suspect to jail. He had responded to a call about someone running in and out of traffic and a man and a woman fighting. The last word dispatch says they heard from the deputy was water. This is Deputy Robert R.J. Leonard of Meigs County, gone 10 minutes after telling dispatch he was taking a suspect to jail. And after a technical glitch prompted a one-day delay, SpaceX tried again this morning to get a lunar lander off the launch pad at Cape Canaveral. This time, as we hear from Jim Ryan, it worked.
Within minutes, the robotic lunar lander known as Nova C Odysseus was operating under its own power on a trajectory to the moon. Because the moon has 1/6 the gravity of Earth and no atmosphere,
it's a much easier place to launch deeper into the solar system.
Tim Crane is Chief Technology Officer at Nova C's builder, Intuitive Machines.
It really is the launching pad into human exploration out into deep space.
Nova C is set to land on the moon a week from today.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Hope you're having a good day. I'm joined in studio by Chris Spencer, who's running for state senate in Sumner and Trousdale County. What's going on, Chris?
What's going on, Chris and Mac? How are you guys doing? I was a little scared coming in here listening to Spaceballs on the radio. All I could think about was John Candy and the RV with wings.
Yep.
Is that kind of what Russians are doing, or?
That's our understanding.
That was their inspiration, actually, yeah.
I'm scared now. Right before an election, too.
Isn't it always convenient?
It's always convenient.
Right after we cancel 61 billion in funding for Ukraine. It's like, but guys, did I mention space nukes?
Well, Rush Limbaugh used to say that that side has low information voters. They're easy to sway to go to the polls.
Yeah, and one thing that manipulates these people the most is fear.
100%.
Fear is an easily manipulatable emotion.
Yes. Sad, but yes.
A lot of people are excited to have you here. You're kind of have your fingers on the pulse of what's going on in the state of Tennessee, and I love your insight on that. One of the things I have to bring up immediately, which many people have already texted in and want your opinion on, are you or are you not for banning the sale of cold beer?
Well,
we're no softballs, Chris.
Yeah, well, I'm for keeping the government out. I don't think increasing the government on us does anything for us. So I like liberty. I don't think we can legislate morality. We already have laws in place, don't we, that prohibits drinking and driving. And so I don't think adding another law, but we have other problems, right? I mean, so yeah, I'm not for the bill to increase more government to watch us, if you will.
I totally agree, and especially on your point of we have bigger problems.
We have much bigger problems.
It seems like this is just a waste of time and taxpayer money to even be discussing.
I would agree. Yep.
Where do you think the focus should be with the state legislature?
Well, the focus should be on the big hot button issues that we have. One would be crime. The second would be illegal immigration and how we're going to fix, or at least curb it and start to decrease the footprint of illegal immigration. And I think those are really the two biggest issues. Of course, vouchers is the governor's biggest issue, but we still don't have a bill on that. So, we really can't comment on much about vouchers until they release a bill. I mean, this has been going on for months now. So hopefully next week. I don't know.
What do you think the delay is on that?
I think they are in trouble because there's a lot of obstacles in the way. One, most of the public school districts across the state are against it. And two, they haven't figured out a way, how the vouchers are going to go out, where are the vouchers going to, what's the criteria for receiving a voucher. And honestly, the real crux of the matter is if you give 20,000 vouchers, do you think there's room for 20,000 private school attendees across the state? I would highly doubt that. I don't think the infrastructure is there for all these kids to leave public school and go to private school. So I think all of the above they're trying to figure out a way to bring it forward.
No, and as a guy with kids in private school, and we cut corners to make it happen, the wait lists have gotten crazy since the pandemic.
Yeah, so just because you got 20,000 vouchers to give out to kids, where are they going?
Yeah,
I just don't know how this is going to work. But I guess maybe next week now they're saying we might have something. So maybe if they have something next week, we'll actually see something and we can actually make some comments about it. See where it goes.
I'm looking forward to see where it goes. Again, as a guy with kids in private school, I like the idea of being able to take my tax dollars and put it towards my kids' education instead of funding a public school which isn't the best in my zoned area. And just having that money go there for no reason.
Well, I worry about the private schools because I think they're going to be under pressure to build buildings, if you will, to house more students. And then what happens if they pass it? What happens if another the 114th or assembly comes in and it's not working, right? And they have to get rid of it. And these schools have started building these buildings, and now they're, we haven't even thought about how we're going to do that.
The land of unintended consequences
Yes.
is what always gets us in trouble. I think that's actually a point that I haven't thought about. What happens if somebody comes in and cancels it?
Yes. Well, it's possible because every General Assembly has another thing. Well, we just don't know how will it work here? Will it be popular? It sounds good. I mean, I'm agree with you. It sounds good, but let's see what the details and how they're going to implement it. That's going to be the interesting thing.
Yeah, you got my wheels turning now, especially thinking if all these private schools, because every private school just about has a wait list.
They do, and I mean, I heard last week on Matt Murphy's show. I can't think of his name. Sapicki, I think it was. He came in and he was actually asking the Catholic schools to invest, meaning we're going to have to expand these campuses to allow these voucher recipients to go to school. So the schools are going to have to invest and hope that this program stays in place where they can get funded to, for all these investments that they're going to make. It's going to be a challenge. And I would be surprised if a lot of these schools would trust the government to spend money in hopes that people will come, build it and they will come.
And I worry what that does to the private school system in general, because one of the best things about, private school is the smaller classroom sizes.
Yes.
And one of the worst things about public school is the overcrowding in the classroom. When you have a classroom of 30 kids versus 15, that's a huge difference.
Yeah. And like the real small Christian schools, the teachers don't make as much as they make in public schools. So how is that going to, where are they going to get the extra teachers? So.
Yeah, that's you got my wheels turning on that now. Where else do you think the focus needs to be for our state legislature as opposed to banning cold beer?
Well, we got a great bill yesterday. They're finally starting to look at illegal immigration.
Okay, all right. You got my interest. Let's look at illegal immigration. Finally, let's do it.
It's Senate Bill 2158, and it just happens to be by my opponent, Senator Hale. He is sponsoring an immigration bill. It's 8 pages long, and it has 25 whereas, and it's not really a bill. I mean,
you gave me a copy. I'm trying to figure out what this bill is actually doing.
It's almost like educating the public on how bad President Biden is, right? I mean, like we already know this,
Mm-hmm.
And then once the bill tells us how bad immigration is, even though they've done nothing to do it. Like the Supreme Court has recognized that the states bear many of the consequences for unlawful immigration. This goes back to 2012, the same year that my opponent took office, but nothing has been done. And so now they're finally putting something together. And really what this bill does at the end, you'll get to see it after it talks about all the money that we're spending. Then it talks about what they're going to do. And that is they're going to go to the departments and basically say, well, you guys figure out how much money we're wasting on illegal immigration and report back to us. That's what it is. That's what this bill is. Nothing about changing any laws and adding any laws, going after any rulings about immigration, but just basically fluff to make it look, we're in an election cycle. So this makes it look like, they're doing something with illegal immigration. What's really amazing is at the end of this bill, it gives a definition of illegal alien. And it gives a definition from 8 U.S.C. 101A3, and it's who is present in the United States without lawful immigration status and therefore subject to removal pursuant to federal law, an alien granted parole under 8 U.S.C. 118(2)(d)(5), temporarily protected status, deferred action, deferred enforced departure, or similar exercise. Basically, these are DACA. These are DACA people. That's the definition of an illegal alien. And the bad thing is in 2022, under the Workforce Expansion Bill, Senate Bill 2464, which was passed and signed by Governor Lee, co-sponsored by my opponent, Senator Hale, it incentivized illegal immigration and gives special rights basically out congressional consent. So basically, that bill that they passed 2 years ago goes against United States federal code, and so it gave illegal aliens, DACA people, the right to get commercial and business license to operate, even though it is against the law to give local public benefits such as this. So they all passed this, and then I don't see a bill to try to replace this bill. I see a bill that just says, oh yeah, illegal immigration is really bad. We need to find out what the costs are, and that basically what this bill is. And I just think that, one, the people that caused a lot of our problems here with illegal immigration as far as incentivizing them, they're not demagnetizing them, are the same ones that are responsible for changing it. And I just don't see that happening. I really don't see that they're going to go against their special interests to maybe get rid of the workforce expansion bills. That's what we need.
And in this bill by Hale, and I'm looking at it now, it says, within 90 days, the commissioners of the Departments of Public Safety and Corrections, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, TBI, will consult with sheriffs and other law enforcement agencies to develop policies, procedures, practices, and methods to collect and analyze data and report to the governor and speakers of the Senate of the Senate and House of Representatives on a monthly basis. Number of aliens in comparison with so it's
word salad. We should already have this.
It's just data collecting.
That's all it is. Data collecting.
They don't do this already.
Well, I would hope they do this already. But this bill is basically just data collecting. It doesn't do anything to help our problems with illegal immigration. It talks about the finances that we're losing, but there's nothing in there challenging the $1 billion that we're losing in our budget. And what's amazing is they can pass a bill 2 years ago, the workforce expansion bill, which they passed and the governor signed, which goes against federal code. It goes against it. How come Republicans never pass a bill that supposedly goes against federal law that benefits us? I don't get that. But
and I look at this and I'm wondering, and I got a text here from John 0973, and I agree with it. Does the state of Tennessee not have sovereignty and the authority to stop illegal aliens from residing here?
I think they do, but they have to. You don't solve it with this, right? You don't solve it with this. You can solve it with some other bills. You can pass maybe some legislation about stopping illegal aliens in our public schools and go after that 1982 ruling from the courts. But I would challenge that 100%. But what they're doing now is basically, this does nothing to help with illegal immigration. What they're doing is saying, "Oh, we're doing something. We're doing something." This is the first. I guess this is their first step. But then another year goes by, and now we're in the next cycle of 2025. And then what? After you get the data, what do you do?
And then we're a year down the road with more illegal aliens.
You're going to do a special session, like they did with the red flag laws in August to do something on illegal immigration. We're in session right now. Why aren't we doing something now? My voters are not going to fall for this.
And 0397 texted and he said, this doesn't sound much like a bill, rather reads like a declaration.
That he's 100% right. It's actually a history class, basically, from how bad Biden has been doing from the border, basically. It's good information. We probably should teach this, but it doesn't do anything to change our immigration problems one bit.
I just wish that we would actually see some definitive action. If your business hires them, you get fined. If we catch you here illegally, you're sent out of the state. This doesn't seem like it's going to demagnetize the state in any effective way.
Well, this bill from 2022 that they all signed and put into law magnetizes it. It allows them to start businesses here, even though they're DACA and illegal. And DACA means that they could be deported at any time. It's the government's decision whether they deport them or not, but they can deport them. They're here just out of grace, basically. But they do not have rights under federal code to receive these types of public benefits and in-state tuition too. By the way, they tried to pass that a couple years ago. It failed, but they certainly tried to give another public benefit.
Well, and it's like the time to do something is, long past, but like, let's do something now. We're seeing reports that Joe Biden's DHS is drafting plans to mass release illegal aliens into the U.S. Mass release.
We got to get aggressive. It's amazing. We should be like, look, I know our attorney general, he's busy. I know that, but he filed a lawsuit against the NCAA 2 weeks ago because of NIL for college athletics. And I'm like, okay, well, I have a little bit of experience in that because I actually sued the NCAA and won in federal court. I'm one of 3 people that ever did it on antitrust violations. And we're going to waste our time filing a lawsuit on NIL for Tennessee University athletics. And I'm in the business, and I'm glad that their NIL exists, but we have other problems to deal with than NIL in athletics here in the state of Tennessee.
I couldn't agree more. We're hanging out with Chris Spencer, who is running for state senate in Trousdale and Sumner counties. Got a couple people waiting on the line for questions with Chris. Dave in Hendersonville. Jim, we'll get to you guys next. Hang out with us. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's been getting a little warmer outside. Have you been walking around your house, hanging out, out front, out back a little bit more? Well, when you do that the next time, walk around. Are you noticing any cracks in your foundation? If you are, you should call the guys at USS, United Structural Systems. They're the experts in foundation repair. They can do it all. If you see cracks in your foundation, that's your house trying to tell you something, and the guys at USS will help you out. Another thing to look for that USS does, have you noticed standing water in your crawl space? I mean, when's the last time you've been in your crawl space? If you see standing water, you could have an issue that USS can fix for you with a custom solution. They can help you with basement and crawl space waterproofing. They can help you with full crawl space encapsulation, basement wall realignment. They can even fix the sinkholes on your property. But all you have to do is call them. They'll come out, give you a free estimate, and then put together a custom plan for you. 615-488-7855. They've been doing it in Middle Tennessee since 1994, and they have 25,000 satisfied customers. I am confident that you will be satisfied as well, and they won't leave until you are satisfied. They won't charge you a dime until the work is done. Call USS today, 615-488-7855. That's 615-488-7855, or online, USSTN.com.
Gallatin, you've got part of the Highway 109 bypass southbound between Long Hollow Pike and Hancock Street blocked. It is stop-and-go traffic from Red River Road. The standoff in Lebanon is over. Nashville voters may decide new transportation funding. The hush money case against former President Trump is entering a critical stage. Got a generic drug shortage and a new honky-tonk on Lower Broad. These stories and more at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, hanging out with Chris Spencer, who is running for state senate in Sumner and Trousdale County. Our good buddy Dave in Hendersonville has a question for you, Chris. Dave, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, Chris?
How are you doing, bud?
We got Romeo Mack in there, you know, Wiki.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Spencer, you was speaking of, good morning to you to begin with, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You were speaking earlier about the illegals going to school here, and you'd be willing to do something about that, or you'd consider doing something about that. I'd like to know what you would do about it.
Well,
because taxpayers here, we don't, you know, my kids are grown. I raised my kids. I paid for their schooling. I don't need to be paying for somebody else's kids, especially somebody's kids that come here illegally.
Well, Dave, thanks for the question. And yeah, I paid for my kids to go to school, and now I have grandkids that are going to be in the Sumner County School District. But yes, so the main thing is there's a 1982 federal court ruling that from Louisiana that basically says that all public schools have to take illegal alien children into their school without discrimination. And of course, back in 1982, we didn't have the problems of illegal immigration that we have today. So that law has been in place for 40 something years. So that's where you have to attack first. So we need to pass a bill, or our Attorney General should file a lawsuit against or try to replace this ruling from 1982. So I would draft a bill to go after that ruling, and then also we need a grace period, of maybe a year to allow that these people can, go back home and maybe help them figure out a way. I just don't want to kick them out without having some grace here, but we definitely need to challenge this ruling and get that off the books, especially now because we have a conservative Supreme Court. And this, once we passed a bill, this would go up through the chain, and maybe it would get to the Supreme Court at some point, and a conservative court would maybe side that there's no reason why that they should be receiving public benefits. So that's what I would do. I think that's about the only thing that you can do right now is to try to challenge that federal ruling from 1982.
Well, if they're here illegally, I mean, I understand that they got, that bill needs to be changed.
I agree.
Because, they are here illegal.
Yep, 100%.
That's the first thing. I mean, we shouldn't be paying for someone, and I understand it's not the kid's fault. I get that, understand it. But again, Chris is good at saying, let's put our mask on before we put somebody else's mask on.
Yeah, you got to put your oxygen mask on the plane first. And we're
exactly.
definitely, the plane is going down.
That.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Dave. We appreciate you, man. It's Dave in Hendersonville. We got to put our oxygen mask on first.
We got to demagnetize Tennessee, right? I mean, that's, we can't pass laws to allow them to operate and flourish here. And I know we keep hearing that, but we need their workers. I was thinking the other day, I remember South Dakota's governor, she was incentivizing to get people they needed workers across America, and they were paying much more money. And they did it in Florida too. They went out and they looked for workers in Florida, and they paid them more money. We're spending $1 billion on illegal immigration. I think it'd be smart for us to do commercials around the country and say, hey, we're going to pay you $10,000 more if you move to Tennessee.
I'd be with that.
I mean, so I think we can get the workers. I don't think we just have to be forced to use illegal immigration.
DeSantis did that with cops.
He did.
We're hanging out with Chris Spencer, who's running for state senate in Sumner County and Trousdale counties. If you got a call for him, 615-737-9986. Here's the latest headlines from Ken Weaver.
Full forecast in 2 minutes. The standoff situation in Lebanon is over. One person's in custody. Police say a man wanted in Nashville had barricaded himself in a home in the West End Station neighborhood off of Lebanon Road. And in Nashville, Mayor Freddie O'Connell just announced he's going to pursue funding for transportation improvements through a referendum on the November ballot. Voters will decide. A judge in New York has set March 25th as the date for the trial in the porn star Stormy Daniels' hush money case against former President Trump. Hospitals facing an intense shortage of generic drugs like cancer treatments, and now the federal government wants to know if these middlemen in the pharmaceutical supply chain are to blame. So the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, launching a probe into a handful of what it calls, quote, powerful companies that buy and distribute medications that are sold to hospitals. And here in Nashville, Morgan Wallen going to open a 6-story honky-tonk off Lower Broad. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Hanging out with a guy I know named Chris Spencer, who's running for state senate in Sumner and Trousdale counties. Good guy. I like him. We were talking about illegal immigration. Have you heard what's going on in Massachusetts with illegal immigration?
Just briefly.
So they're inviting illegal aliens into residents' homes. They're asking residents to open their doors for illegal aliens.
Well, that sounds good. Sounds attractive until something goes deadly wrong. I look, I have a wife and I have kids. I would never bring a stranger into my home unless I knew who they were and stuff about them. I mean, I've had pastors, from other countries come and stay at my house, but that I think that's a little bit different.
Well, there was one story where a Massachusetts couple said that they would do it, and they called the government to sign up, and it was like 1 hour later. We're here. They had no idea who was coming. And then I heard this story in Massachusetts where, I don't know, you tell me. It sounds like this woman took in an illegal alien and is just using it as like government-sanctioned slavery.
It's a delight, and it's really fun having them. What I realized is there's so much prejudice against refugees, mostly because people don't know them.
Lisa says she feels like she has her own personal chef, as Wildande loves cooking.
That's how they're selling it. You get your own personal chef.
Well, I disagree with her that says that people that are alarmed with what's going on with illegal immigration are that we're discriminating in any sense. We're not discriminative people. We just look. I don't fault them because that they've opened the border and allowed them to come in. But I'm sure they're nice people. But we're supposed to have laws here in this country, and we need laws, and we need to make sure that the people that are coming in aren't here to come to harm us. And right now, we don't know that.
Well, and it seems like the federal government is just dropping them off at our doorstep.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. We're not, and we don't have any answers with the current legislations that we're filing here in Tennessee either.
No, we don't. Mel wants to talk about illegal immigration. Mel, you're on with Chris Spencer on Super Talk. What's up, Mel?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Forgive me if I missed the beginning of your program and what you were speaking about, but I would look, have you looked to Europe and the Scandinavian countries that had a similar thing happen there, because the United Nations and the NGOs that they feed are behind so much of this, which I think the Biden administration is tied right in with.
Well, I've seen a lot of problems all through Europe, Germany and France and Sweden and so forth. You're correct. The UN and they all fell for this woke agenda of allowing all of these people to come into their countries unvetted, and they've had serious spikes in crime, and now some of them are trying to deport these people. And look, for us in the United States, we should never care what the UN wants us to do. That's what we have legislators for in our Constitution. We don't need the UN to tell us what we're the United States. We fund the UN basically for the benefit of the rest of the European Union, and a lot of them are not even doing the minimal requirements that they're supposed to do. That's what Donald Trump is brought attention to in 2016, and I imagine he's going to bring attention to it again in 2024.
My dad used to always say to me when I was a kid, and it always stuck with me, he's like, if you want to know what's coming next in America, look at Europe, because they're always 10 to 15 years ahead.
With music too sometimes.
Yeah, and it's like you see what's happening with their illegal immigration and how they label it as refugees. It's scary that they want that here.
Well, I believe I remember one of the reasons in Germany they did it was because the young people weren't having children. They're not getting married, right? So they're actually depopulating in some of these European countries. And it is a problem, in Europe. And so they wanted the labor to come in through these illegal immigration channels. But it certainly wasn't worth it for them.
Is there a way that we can incentivize growing families here at a state level?
Well, I think what we need to do is probably promote marriage again. I mean, look, I've been married for 33 years, and my wife is my best friend, and we hang out. And I've had my office in my home for 25 years, so we're around each other 24/7. I never get tired of her, but we don't hear about the good things about family and about marriage. We've spent 20 years trying to belittle families and fathers and so forth. And that comes from the media and everything else. And I know, like Charlie Kirk, he promotes marriage and being a husband and a good husband and a father. And I think we need to promote that across this country and just to show that, look, marriage is wonderful, right?
Yeah.
But we're not doing that. And I think we can do that. Have good examples for that.
Have you heard that Rep. Greg Martin out of Hamilton County is proposing legislation that will create a sales tax holiday for items new parents spend a bunch of money on, so like diapers, baby wipes, formula?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard about that bill, but, that's probably something I could support because, look, inflation is here, and it's here to stay. I mean, when you shut down your countries and you shut down your businesses over COVID, this is part of the result is we're going to have high inflation for I don't know how much longer, but so these families are struggling that have children because their wages are not going higher than what it costs, the cost of living.
Well, I'll push back on that a little bit because I heard Janet Yellen actually say we're doing better than we were pre-pandemic.
Are you and President Biden happy with where inflation is right now?
Well, look, we know that Americans are experiencing discomfort because some important prices are higher than they were pre-pandemic. But what I think is really important is that wages have gone up along with prices, so people are better off than they were pre-pandemic.
So I think
well, that solves it right there, right? I mean, so inflation is going to come down today.
We're actually doing a lot better than we were before the pandemic.
Well, like I said before, we're in an election year and they're playing to their base. I don't think it's going to work. They historically have been a low information base. But I think they're social media, now that it's free again on Twitter, thank you, Elon Musk, that's where, if you want the real news, you find it on X anymore. Yep. I mean,
yeah.
And I think that people are understanding that they're not going to fall for this again. I agree with you yesterday when you said that it could be a landslide victory for Donald Trump. Kind of like the Ronald Reagan of maybe not 49 states, but
Lord willing. Here's the thing. I think that a lot of times Democrats win the youth vote, but you have a lot of youth vote coming out now going, I can't afford to move out of my parents' house.
And they never will. If things keep going, they'll never be a homeowner. They never will. For a majority probably of the young people, the debt that we are leaving our children and their children in this country is just sinful. And I feel so sorry for them. And I don't know why they continue to vote Democratic. I don't get it.
Well, and it's also it's not just the Democrats, as we saw with Mike Turner, who's a Republican out of Ohio, who, because we don't want to send $61 billion to Ukraine, is running around screaming about Russian space nukes.
Yeah, I mean, we need to quit funding these wars in every single country. I mean, we got enough problems here in our country that we need to deal with. But I agree with you. We shouldn't be funding Ukraine. That needs to stop.
I would be willing to pause all foreign aid until we get our affairs in order in this country.
And you know what? We could do that. It's our money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we could say 5 years, no more money. We're going to fix our infrastructure, and trust me, we need some infrastructure in this country. Why are we fixing everybody else's infrastructure?
Well, and is something like how Trump has talked about sending out loans that get paid back with interest
from the government?
Yeah, instead of foreign aid where we just hand it out.
Oh. Well, you mean to foreign countries, or to that they would have to pay interest?
Yeah,
they wouldn't pay it.
Fair enough.
I mean, do you trust them?
No.
No. Let's just work on America first, right? I mean, that's what I am. America first.
And then, if you got to the state Senate, you'd be Tennessee first.
Tennessee first. 100%.
What does Tennessee first look like for you?
Well, that we do exactly what we were talking about here for, Tennessee First is growing Tennessee in a good way. So like if we need workers, let's incentivize them. Let's use some of this money that we're spending on illegal immigration and use it for grants for some companies to go get employees from other states, incentivize them to come here. That's Tennessee First, because that would bring people here instead of illegals here that are not paying any taxes. And I want to bring the family back. That's Tennessee First. I want to bring God back in our schools. I think that's Tennessee First. We need to have responsibilities back into our children. We need fathers in the home. We need to promote a family unit, and that's Tennessee First. So I think a lot of those things would do well here in Tennessee.
What else is on your radar as far as news stories going on currently?
Well, So Mark Pody, it passed in the Senate, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, Senate Bill 1641, and this is a good bill from Mark Pody. It basically says that everybody that's in a hospital gets at least one visitation, no matter what. So it's sad that we had to pass a law to do this because of what happened during COVID, people weren't allowed to visit their sick people that were in the hospital and then died. They died alone or they suffered in our hospitals. And so it's a good bill from Mark Pody that this should never happen again in the state of Tennessee. So I support that.
No, that's a good bill. And I thought that the way the hospitals treated people during COVID was awful.
It was, it's hard to even go back and people have kind of like forgotten about it, even though it was just 3 years ago. But I don't think we should forget about it because it caused so much damage here towards our state and to the world, actually. But that's definitely a good bill. So and he also he has a sponsored bill, Senate Bill 0596 to protect religious freedoms, basically that. If clergy doesn't want to marry somebody, they have the choice to not marry them. So they're making legislation for that, and I support that as well. I mean, freedom also is freedom to choose whether you want to do business, not discriminatory, but based on race, but based upon your faith and your belief. I support that as well.
Jimmy's got a question for you, real quick. Jimmy, you're next with Chris Spencer on Super Talk. What's up, Jimmy?
Hey, Chris and Chris. Chris Spencer, I like what you're saying. I've been following you a little bit on WTN. My question is, these far-reaching federal subpoenas for the lists of Cabela's and Bass Pro, basically, no pun, but kind of like fishing expedition to look and see what they can find for hunting rifles and weapons and ammo and things like that. Is there anything that the state can do or to set up to block some of these subpoenas for some of these companies?
Well, that's what the state legislatures can pass laws to do anything, depending on how it would turn up with, the appeals courts or whatever. But I agree with you that something should be passed. We do have our privacy, and I don't like any of these fishing expeditions that they've done. They've done on our president. They've done on, anybody that goes up against the liberal, quota or the agenda that they're doing. But yeah, I agree that we need to protect anybody that is using their Second Amendment to purchase a gun. Why would they want to release that information?
Yeah.
That's part of our privacy laws. So I would support that, Jimmy.
Chris Spencer is running for State Senate in Sumner and Trousdale counties. Where can they find you, Chris? ChrisSpencerForSenate.com is my website. And then on Twitter, it's SpencerTN18. On Facebook, it's Tennessee State Senate 18. On Instagram, it's Chris Spencer TN18. Perfect. Chris is a good guy. Check him out if you're in those districts you want to vote, or you're in those counties you want to vote for Chris. Take a look at him. I think you'll like what you see. It's 10:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, stop and go traffic in Cheatham County. This is 24 westbound between New Hope Road and Springfield Ashland City. Highway 49, exit 24. That is a 15-minute delay right now. There is new information about the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade shooters. Nashville voters might have another issue to decide on the November ballot. A judge in New York set a date for the start of the former porn star Stormy Daniels' hush money case against former President Trump. That's going to trial. Hospitals face a critical generic drug shortage. And Forbes is out with the cities that have the worst drivers. And guess what state has two of them? These stories are more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ken Weaver, the master of the teas on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. On the way, I want to talk about George Soros buying a large group of radio stations and why I'm not exactly worried about it quite yet, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. We're also going to talk about updates in the Biden-Her developments and the fact that Joe Biden is so bad with his memory, he doesn't remember what he doesn't remember. Plus, we got updates on who denied personally Secret Service protection for RFK Jr. Whether you like RFK Jr. or not, it's a fascinating story. We'll talk about that after the news at 11 with Ken Weaver on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eleven o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes, and we just got more information about the suspects in the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade shooting yesterday. Police say it was a result of a dispute between several people, and 2 of the 3 people they detained are juveniles. The fatal victim, identified as Kansas City radio host Lisa Lopez Galvan, a local DJ and mother of 2. Right now in Nashville, Mayor Freddie O'Connell says he's going to pursue funding for a new transportation plan through a voter referendum in November. He said it'll be the largest investment in Nashville's transportation in 6 years if voters approve.
This is, in many ways, our last best chance to take a huge step forward as a city together. This will be up to all of us.
In addition, Mayor O'Connell said the city will not seek a property tax rate increase for the fiscal year 2025. In New York City, a judge has set March 25th as the start of a trial in former porn star Stormy Daniels' hush money case against former President Trump. Trump expressing his frustration to reporters outside.
So instead of being in South Carolina and other states campaigning, I'm stuck here. It's an election interference case. Nobody's ever seen anything like it in this country. It's a disgrace. It's a disgraceful situation, actually.
Trump pleading not guilty to nearly 3 dozen counts of falsifying business records. Hospitals facing an intense shortage of generic drugs like cancer treatments, and now the federal government wants to know if these middlemen in the pharmaceutical supply chain are to blame. Federal Trade Commission launching a probe into a handful of what it calls powerful companies that buy and distribute medications % from 2020 to 2022. But drivers in some communities are better or at least more careful than in others, as we hear from Jim Ryan.
Forbes Advisor compared the 50 most populous U.S. cities across 5 metrics to determine which one has the best drivers and which has the worst. Based on fatal crashes involving distraction, speeding, and drinking, Albuquerque tops the list as home to the worst drivers. 2 of the top 10 on that list are in Texas. 3 of the top 10 cities with the best drivers are in California. They're San Francisco, Oakland, and San Diego.
Memphis ranks as the city with the second worst drivers. Nashville is 17th, Louisville 7th, Atlanta number 16. Back here in Nashville, Morgan Wallen is going to open a 6-story honky tonk off Lower Broad. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at membersnutrition.com. Listen, if you want to take care of your health, there is a great way to do it, and it's with my friends at Members Nutrition. They provide a youthful cleanse from Daily Defense. I mean, let's think about what's in your body. Face it, what's in your body is awful. Think about what you're eating. It's toxic. Think about the air you're breathing. It's toxic. It's not your fault. But doing nothing about it, that's when it becomes your fault. But you can do something about it. The toxins that build up in your body suppress your immune system and your ability to absorb nutrients and fight illness. So you got to get rid of that excess waste. That excess waste can also cause you to prematurely age. It'll make you feel bloated, gross, sluggish. It's time to change your body's oil with this youthful cleanse from Daily Defense. Now, if you purchase Daily Defense's youthful cleanse at membersnutrition.com, you'll be taking control of your health and taking control of your life. I have been feeling so good from this cleanse that Mac even brought it up to me and said, what is that? I want to take it. And I brought some in for Mac to use. I swear by this stuff. It's amazing. You should take your health into your own hands. Give this stuff a try. This youthful cleanse will work for you the way it's worked for me, and you can get it online right now at membersnutrition.com. And I will say this, everything's made in the USA, not by teeny tiny little hands in China. membersnutrition.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I got to tell you guys, we have a live event happening. Super Talk Live on Super Tuesday, March 5th at the Nashville Palace. So Dan has been typing these notes up. So that way we can tell you all the great sponsors that are bringing you this. Of course. Like the Glock store at shoot270.com, our friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, and membersnutrition.com. They're sponsoring this event. We're grateful to them. So Dan types this up for us. So that way we have the date. Yeah. That way we can tell you about the hot chicken and barbecue tailgate package that you can win by reserving your table at 997WTN.com. And that's all this info. Dan says to me this morning, he's like, where are those info sheets going? And I was like, I don't know, bro. So right before my last read for our new sponsor, Members Nutrition, I go to get my notes for that. Found the sheet in my bag.
And you pull out all the information.
I was like, oh.
Dan's trying to scrape together in his mind. He's like, I typed it out.
Dan is like, where does this thing keep disappearing? He asked me, and I'm like, I have no idea. Don't ask me. Like, that's a Murphy thing, guaranteed.
Yeah, of course.
Guaranteed.
Come on, man.
You know it wouldn't be me. It's in my bag. So we want you to join us at Super Talk Live on Super Tuesday, March 5th, Woo. Nashville Palace. It's a free event. It's going to be myself, Dan, Matt, and Brian. A night of fun, food, conversation. We're going to be celebrating the fact that hopefully it will be the end of Nikki Haley. I'll be celebrating that.
Oh, yeah. You'll be partying hard, man.
I will be. Still haven't found a Nikki Haley clown shirt.
Oh, we got to get that.
I've been looking for one.
We've got a little bit of time.
I've been looking, and nobody sells them.
So wait, this event is free, just clarifying, but you got to go register still. Because I've seen some people confused about that.
So it's free, but if you reserve your table online, that gets you entered to win a hot chicken and barbecue tailgate package for 25 people. So
go online.
So reserve your table online, and that's really, honestly, it's for a head count.
Yeah, can we have kind of an idea? That makes sense. Okay, that makes sense.
But
gotcha.
It's free, and you don't have to pay to reserve the table. It's FREE, as the kids say.
Let's go.
5-finger discount. You know what I mean?
Heck yeah, man. Sounds like a good deal.
It is a good deal. It's gonna be a great time. We're gonna be there.
And it's going to actually, like you said, it's actually going to go well.
Thanks to our sponsors. Glock Store.
Bingo.
Glock Store at shoot270.com, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and membersnutrition.com.
Woo.
So we want to see you there. Super Tuesday. 997WTN.com for more. And Nikki Haley, have you seen these polls?
Oh, no. Is she still surging, or what's the latest?
It's a surge, all right. She's headed for history. A historic defeat as Trump leads by more than a 2-1 margin. Oof. A poll examining the Republican primary race out of South Carolina is projecting a historic defeat for Nikki Haley. Historic. Trump leads by a massive margin, 65-30. 65-30. It's a blowout. It's a blowout. She claims to be surging. She's not surging. She's not surging. Trump was in South Carolina last night doing a rally, and the crowd doesn't seem to respond pretty well to Nikki Haley, and he's going at her in South Carolina, talking about how Nikki gave land to China, loses to Biden in national polls, and even sides with Joe Biden.
She gave land away to China, but most importantly, I'm beating Biden in almost every poll by a lot, whereas she loses to Biden in virtually every poll. And her numbers, by the way, are tanking. Her numbers are going down.
It's a reverse surge. What's the opposite of surge? Can you surge downwards?
Yeah, you're plummeting.
Plummeting.
As she gets angrier, crazier, and suffers deeper scars from Trump derangement syndrome. She's got a terminal case.
Terminal case. And this is in South Carolina. You can hear the crowd losing it and cheering.
Terminal case, Trump derangement syndrome. Not a nice thing. There are many people afflicted with it. Most of them are gone.
It's not a nice thing. Not a nice thing, this Trump derangement syndrome.
On the amnesty bill, Nikki sided with crooked Joe Biden. I sided with the American people. She sided with Biden.
Oof. Eesh. Those are nails you're hearing hammered into the coffin. That's what that is. He didn't stop there. He actually, this one wasn't really as much about Nikki Haley as it was about calming people's fears that she might be the VP. He said, not going to happen.
And remember this, when I make a statement like that about Nikki, that means she will never be running for vice president. She will never be running for vice president. Remember that. There are things you can say about people. Do you ever see where, you're really hitting one person, they're hitting you, but it goes to a level. But we're at the level now, I am in particular, bird brain and lots of other things. There are things that when you say that you're never going to have her, so I hope nobody wants her because I think she's absolutely terrible. She's terrible. So you're never going to have her, and I don't think anybody's very devastated. We do have a lot of great people, by the way.
Are you devastated that Nikki Haley won't be VP? I'm beginning to think that we do need at least a female VP so I can stop saying that Kamala Harris was the best female vice president we've ever had. So
that would be good.
As it stands right now, if it's not a female VP for Trump, Kamala Harris will remain the best female vice president we've ever had. And as a guy with daughters, I would like to change that talking point. It has been revealed, though, that Donald Trump and his advisors have spoken with Tulsi Gabbard. They had a meeting. Tulsi Gabbard held a meeting with Trump. Now, not about VP. So, not about that. He actually spoke with Tulsi Gabbard about foreign policy, as well as how the Department of Defense should run under a second Trump term. That's according to the Washington Post. The talks with the former Hawaiian Democrat representative are part of conversations on how Trump would manage the DOD in a different way if he wins in November. I like that. I think it's good to get new ideas and have these conversations. And I think that just because she's more left-leaning, more middle of the road now than if you want to put her in a box, maybe she's a classic liberal, still left-leaning. But I think that you should talk to people and get new ideas. In his first term, he talked to RFK about the vaccine industry. They had those conversations as well. And I think it's good. Speaking of RFK, it's been revealed by Judicial Watch that Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas was the one that personally declined RFK Jr.'s request for Secret Service protection. Judicial Watch announced that it received 99 pages of Secret Service records from the Department of Homeland Security in a FOIA lawsuit that showed Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas personally declined Presidential Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s request for Secret Service protection. I think that's hot garbage. Now, I don't want RFK Jr. to be president. I don't. But he's running for president. He's very well known. and his dad and uncle were murdered, assassinated. I think this guy should have some Secret Service protection. But it was May 26, 2023. Candidate for president RFK Jr. submitted a request to the Department of Homeland Security for United States Secret Service protection. In accordance with the authorities set forth in Title 18, United States Code, Section 3056A7, and in consultation with the Candidate Protection Advisory Committee, Mayorkas declined to identify candidate Kennedy for United States Secret Service protection at that time. Mayorkas copied the letter to members of the Candidate Protection Advisory Committee, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, then Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and Senate Sergeant-at-Arms Karen Gibson. As noted in a previous production of records from this lawsuit, the Secretary of Homeland Security has broad discretion when authorizing Secret Service protection to presidential or vice presidential candidates. So he can do this. Secret Service protection for presidential candidates began in 1968 after the assassination of Democrat candidate Robert F. Kennedy, who is RFK Jr.'s dad. That's when they started protecting candidates. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. does not get that same protection, even though his father would have benefited from that protection. I just think it's hot garbage. I think all candidates should be protected. Just the route that should be gone down. Is that? I mean, Alejandro Mayorkas is just not a good guy. Not a good guy. Biden has been picking up endorsements lately. He actually got a major endorsement. You may have heard it in Ken Weaver's newscast. Putin endorsed Joe Biden. He said Joe Biden would be better for Russia than Donald Trump. Said Joe Biden is old school and predictable. He expressed his feelings about Biden during an interview on Russian TV. Said Biden is more experienced, predictable person. He's a politician of the old school, but we will work with any leader of the United States who is trusted by the American people. I don't know if we're really trusting Joe Biden, but he's trying to be diplomatic, if you will. Trump actually brought this up, the endorsement that Putin gave Biden at that rally in South Carolina last night.
He's got a gift. He's going to have his dream of getting Ukraine because of Biden. The whole thing is just crazy. Biden has given him the only president in the last 5 that hasn't given Russia anything is a president known as Donald J. Trump. You know that. I don't have to go over the list. But Biden is going to give him Ukraine. The way it's looking to me, it's terrible. So Putin came out and he said, I'd much rather have Biden be president. I said, well, that's insulting. And then I said, wait a minute, that's actually a very good thing. I think I'll mention it tonight at the speech.
Yeah, so Putin endorses Biden. Makes sense, right? Absolutely makes sense. Nobody's really shocked by that. Who wouldn't want a sleepy guy in control of America? A geopolitical adversary. A guy whose memory is so bad, he doesn't remember what he doesn't remember. And NBC News is reporting that Joe Biden, who attacked special counsel Robert Hur for asking him when Beau died, that didn't happen, according to sources. The special counsel didn't ask him when Beau died. Now, that was a big talking point. Joe Biden told reporters, how in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. We all remember the clip. But it's now being reported that Hur never asked that question, according to 2 people familiar with the 5-hour interview with the president over 2 days last October. It was the president, Joe Biden, not Robert Hur or his team, who first introduced Beau Biden's death, they said. Joe Biden can't remember what he doesn't remember. Biden, according to NBC News, raised his son's death after being asked about his workflow at a Virginia rental home from 2016 to 2018, the sources said, when the ghostwriter was helping him write a memoir about losing Beau to brain cancer in 2015. Investigators had a 2017 recording showing that Biden had told the ghostwriter he had found classified stuff in the home, the report says. Biden began trying to recall that period by discussing what else was happening in his life, and it was at that point in the interview that he appeared confused about when Beau died, the sources said. So it's not like Robert Hur asked him out of the blue. Biden was trying to remember things by discussing what else was happening in his life, and that's when he got confused about when his son died, according to sources. And for the record, Biden got the date right, but not the year. Joe can't remember what he can't remember. And a former White House doctor under Trump and Obama, Ronnie Jackson, is calling on Biden to take a cognitive test and prove to Americans he's fit to lead during his upcoming annual physical. Of course, the doctor in there currently isn't going to make him take one. I think that is trash. That doctor should have his license revoked. You're not seeing what everybody else is seeing? You don't think that this is a matter of national security? That the president of the United States has his wits about him? Unbelievable. It's crazy, though, that the former White House doctor under Trump and Obama wants Biden to take a cognitive test. Wild stuff. 11:21. It's Super Talk. 99.7 WTN.
The Kansas City police chief just updated the shooting at the Chiefs celebration for the Super Bowl yesterday. That shooting that killed one and injured more than 20 others. Here in Nashville, Mayor Freddie O'Connell says he's going to seek a voter referendum in November to get funding for transportation improvements. And former President Trump is angry about what a New York judge did today. Details at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Just going through these text messages from you guys on the Super Text line, which is brought to us by membersnutrition.com. Yeah, we got a Super Text sponsor. Do you
Let's
know that?
go. I had no idea.
I love it. I heard the promo.
Heck yeah, about time.
So I got a text message here. Got a text from jail.
Whoa.
I know.
Whoa.
I saved his name as Ronald from jail. Ronald texted in, said, "This is Ronald from Nashville, and about Biden's immigration issue. Have the states send their migrants to Joe Biden's state and hometown and see what he thinks about that."
Based.
Yeah. I think which home? Like, he'd probably be fine with Scranton, you know? I think we'd have to focus on Rehoboth Beach, Delaware.
Yes.
Or maybe 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Don't.
Oh, sorry. It wasn't my idea, sir. It was Ronald's. So I know Murphy gets emails from jail. Now we're getting text messages from jail.
I love it.
What up, Ronald?
What's going on, Ronald?
Thanks for listening. You know that the Chris Hand Show is the #1 political show for people in jail based upon anecdotal evidence.
Meaning this one message that we just got.
That's this.
Do we need more?
Need I say more? Need I say more? Anecdotally, we're the #1 conservative talk radio show among prisoners in Tennessee.
Bingo.
Did you see the other text I got? They were replying to the fact that Putin endorsed Joe Biden.
Be president. I said, well, that's insulting. And then I said, wait a minute. That's actually a very good thing. I think I'll mention it tonight at the speech.
Putin says he would rather have Joe Biden. And Brian texted in. He said, Putin's take on Biden versus Trump is like the Chiefs saying they'd rather play the Panthers than the 49ers.
That's so true.
You like that, right?
That's perfect.
Is that not exactly what he's saying?
Panthers laughing stock of the league versus the Niners, who are the front runner. Yeah.
Makes sense, as people say.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Also, I just as a programming note, we've been doing a thing with Mac where he is going to be wearing an article of chief clothing every day without a repeat until he runs out.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to see how long we can go in celebration of the Super Bowl win.
Heck yeah. So we're on day 3 right now. Day
3?
Yep.
No, it's day 4.
No, because I wasn't here Monday.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's day 3. Yeah, we missed a day, but that's okay. I'll make up for it. I had the red Chiefs zip up. I wore Chiefs headdress shirt yesterday, canceled, and then I wore Chiefs 13 seconds shirt.
The Chiefs headdress shirt was the best. That's in your support of the little kid that got accused of blackface.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not allowed to wear that one.
But we're counting any article of clothing, like you said.
Any article. So socks are in play.
Oh, yeah.
Pants are in play.
Oh, yeah.
Hats are in play. And we're going to see how many days in a row you can go without a repeat.
Super Texters, I'd love to hear your bets on how many days you think I can go. So I'd love to just, get some numbers thrown out.
I'm thinking that we're probably going to be at 3 weeks, 21 days. 21 days. So it's going to stretch even further.
Yeah, I think that too. That's kind of where I don't like. I've got a bunch of shirts and a bunch of clothes, so we'll see. It could be longer. I don't know. I'm going to be pulling stuff out of the woodwork that I haven't worn.
And you're not allowed to buy new items.
No new items. Yeah, so no new Super Bowl stuff that just happened or anything like that.
No.
Okay. Heard.
Has to be new, old stuff.
Yes.
Previously purchased.
So in.
Yeah, and we're going to see how long Mac can go.
This is going to be great.
We're on day 3. All right.
Let's go.
We'll try and keep this counting down for you guys. And Joe texted in. He said, "Does Mac get to wear one sock at a time?"
Joe, that's a good idea.
A pair of socks is one article.
Dang it.
We're going to have to work on the fine print on this.
Yeah, really. Yeah, exactly. We're going to have to kind of.
And we have a Google Doc to say all the things, okay?
Yep, got one written down.
All right, on the way, I'm going to get to that story about George Soros buying a bunch of radio stations. Mike actually just texted in. Sorry, I have to answer this. 9986. Mike texted in and said, "Are you going to check his underwear?" We actually We had that conversation already. That is not going to be something that is allowed.
I agree completely.
All right. Just had to
You just
get
have
that
to trust me for my word.
honor system. So we'll talk about George Soros and buying radio stations next on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. It is 11:30 on the dot. Kansas City Police Chief Stacey Graves today updating the shooting at the Chiefs Super Bowl celebration that killed one person and injured more than 20 others.
This appeared to be a dispute between several people that ended in gunfire.
2 juvenile suspects have been detained, several firearms recovered. Right now in Nashville, Mayor Freddie O'Connell says he's going to seek a referendum on the November ballot to get funding for transportation improvements, including buses running 24/7.
Because we know that Nashvillians don't just work 9 to 5.
In addition, Mayor O'Connell said the city will not seek a property tax rate increase for the fiscal year 2025. And a judge has set a trial date of March 25th in the former porn star Stormy Daniels' hush money case against former President Trump, and he's not happy.
He's never seen anything like it in this country. It's a disgrace. It's a disgraceful situation, actually. And we'll just have to figure it out.
Fox Business News says JP Morgan Chase, investors BlackRock, and State Street Global Advisors are quitting a United Nations climate alliance to fight global warming through corporate sustainability agreements. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Mac, did you hear that?
What?
The weather guy.
What did he say?
Wet snow.
What? How did he certify that? I'm still trying to fact check that.
What kind of credentials does he think he has?
Exactly.
What is that about?
He doesn't know what I know. He has not dove down the rabbit holes that I've dove down. Okay. Dang it.
It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. That's Mac Maury, my very talented producer.
Who also fact checks snow.
11:37. Listen, we wanted to talk about George Soros. Old Georgie boy. Did you hear what he did? He made a big purchase.
Oh, George. Okay.
They describe him as billionaire and left-wing philanthropist. Doesn't philanthropist mean you do good?
Yeah.
Normally.
Pretty much, yeah.
Are they using anecdotal evidence to describe? So he's been buying up debt to acquire a controlling stake in the second largest radio broadcast company in the country, Odyssey. Soros is acquiring a controlling stake in the second largest broadcast company in the country, Odyssey. Now, you'll remember Odyssey was going bankrupt. And court filings and sources close to the situation told the New York Post that the Soros Fund Management has bought up $400 million of the debt in Odyssey. Odyssey is number 2 behind iHeartMedia. They have stations in New York like WFAN, The Fan. That's a huge sports station. They have 1010 Wins, as well as Los Angeles' famous K-Rock. They have some big stations. Soros could have control of more than 220 radio stations nationwide. One Republican insider close to the situation told the outlet that Soros could be trying to have media outlets to potentially influence public opinion during the 2024 election. This is scary, the source said. Should Soros prove successful, he will likely have a 40% stake in the company's senior debt, which would give him strong control of the company when it emerges from bankruptcy. However, he will not have a majority. Soros scooped up the debt in the past few weeks at roughly 50 cents on the dollar from hedge fund H.G. Vora, according to a source close to the situation. Under Odyssey's current Chapter 11 bankruptcy plan, existing shareholders are expected to be wiped out. It added that high-ranking creditors like Soros would be repaid with stock in the restructured company. Odyssey again filed for bankruptcy on January 7th with $1.9 billion in debt. And they confirmed the investment from Soros. They say the decision by our existing and new debt holders to become equity holders in Odyssey represents a significant vote of confidence in our company and the future of radio and the audio business. That's what Odyssey said in a statement. So a lot of people look at this and they kind of freak out. I'll tell you why that it's interesting. It's something to keep an eye on, but I'm not freaking out yet. And let me just say this. Does Odyssey own a lot of stations? Yes, 220 is a lot. But the majority of these radio stations, I hate to break it to you, already lean left. Pop music stations, already lean left. Majority of sports radio stations, already lean left. This isn't going to really change the atmosphere on the product very much. Markets that Odyssey does have news stations are plenty. Now, I don't think it's going to affect all these markets that George Soros is now involved. So let's take a look at this, okay? For news stations, right? Just pure news. Odyssey has stations in New Orleans, Detroit, Minneapolis, downtown Minneapolis, Kansas City, St. Louis, Vegas, Buffalo, New York City, Philly, Pittsburgh, Scranton, and Richmond, Virginia. Okay, those are just the markets that Odyssey has news properties in. It sounds like they're in big markets, but But the majority of these markets that they have news stations in, the news stations are already left-leaning. So it negates everything, right? The stations already lean left. There are a couple markets where it's conservative leaning. It's going to affect some, I'd imagine. So like Richmond, I worked in this this actual building. I worked in the building. Richmond has WRVA. That's a classic station in Richmond, conservative, as conservative as you can get in Central Virginia, but conservative nonetheless. But their signal's really weak, like really weak. Like, you know how we can hear Super Talk basically all the way to what? Center Hill Lake, and then just as far in the other direction and all the other directions. It doesn't have a signal like that. This conservative leaning station is basically just the downtown area. St. Louis also jumps out to me. They run shows like Brian Kilmeade and Dana Loesch. They have conservative shows, but it's St. Louis. You know what I mean? Is that are you losing a conservative property in an area that's going to flip? And then you have other stations that are just full left wing. Like Pittsburgh has KDKA, classic heritage news talk, left leaning. Detroit, WWJ, classic heritage, left leaning. I've worked in both of those markets. I didn't work in the same building as Pittsburgh's KDKA, but I did work in the same building as Detroit's WWJ. Guys, it's not going to change how they're operating already. Like, it's just not. Now, this doesn't mean that Odyssey and George Soros aren't going to look at other markets and flip stations, and that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But as far as talk radio goes and this format that we have, unless you're in a leftist hellhole, woke radio doesn't work. It just doesn't. There's only one guy that's left-leaning in talk radio that garners any headlines. That's Jimmy Dore. And he garners headlines for all the wrong reasons because he oftentimes strays away from the woke ideology. Left radio, I don't see being able to garner any ratings or momentum in conservative markets. I just don't. That doesn't mean they're not going to try and make that play. But like, could you imagine? Now they own Odyssey owns properties in Chattanooga and they own properties in Memphis. So like Memphis, you might be able to gain some momentum, right? With a woke left-leaning station. Chattanooga, doubtful. I don't see that it's going to really be a net positive for them. And I see that everybody goes, oh no, George Soros bought up a bunch of radio stations. What is this going to do to conservative talk radio? But I'm telling you, the properties that they already have that are established are either woke already or not really game changers, or they're in blue hellhole cities. And if they do flip stuff in other markets, guys, it's going to be an absolute uphill battle. And it's for those reasons that I think that George Soros buying this is a losing play. And I know it's going to garner a lot of headlines because it's George Soros and he has a lot of money and he's influencing media. But I feel like it's an uphill battle and a losing play. So I want to get that off everybody's chest. My uncle texted this to me late last night. He's like, "Did you see this?" And it's like one of the things that I love to do and I like to think I'm good at is market analysis and being able to look at a radio station market and find out where the holes are, what the audience demographics are like, what people like, what people don't. It's a weird thing to do, but I like to do it. And it when you move around to a bunch of different cities, you kind of get a vibe for different areas and what that looks like. Are there going to be some markets within Odyssey where they're going to do their market analysis and feel like, you know, an NPR type station will work? Sure. I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think it's going to be an uphill battle, especially in conservative markets. Who's going to listen? Me and Mac could flip a station and just shout about the Chiefs all day, but we're in Nashville.
Yep.
You know,
That's exactly right.
It could be the best content, but it doesn't fit the market analysis here. And I feel like for left-leaning woke news, you're going to run into that in conservative markets. Point blank. So I don't see it as something that we need to fear or something that's going to make a huge difference at all. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Because
those places are established.
Yeah,
it's going to take a lot more than just some guy coming in.
And what are you going to do? Are you going to hire local talent? Are you going to have nationally syndicated programming? Yeah. What kind of nationally syndicated programming? Do you know, honestly, anyone off the top of your head, left-leaning nationally syndicated programming that is recognized across the country? So but it worked the other way because, you know, for a long time you had guys like Rush that were nationally syndicated. He could come into a market and take it by storm because there was an appetite for that conservative media. There's no appetite or personalities that can support that left-wing media ecosystem. Period. So I get it's a big story, and I know what George is trying to do. I don't think it's going to work. I don't. Just me. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to syndicate the Young Turks? Like, okay. Good luck. I mean, you know what? They probably would want to do something like that, but I still don't think it.
Watch out, man. Their ratings will be surging like Nikki Haley.
You know, if I was in programming and doing that kind of stuff, and like that would probably be one of those plays that I would look to these bigger left-leaning podcasts. And, and try and strike deals there.
Yep.
Because other than that, like on the actual broadcast dial, who do you have?
Non-existent.
No. And
you're right. It'd be podcasts.
It would have to be. It would have to be. So I don't.
Influencers, that sort of thing.
And then they'd have to pay a bunch of money.
Ooh, so much.
And the company just filed bankruptcy. So that would be a tough pill to swallow, especially then when you don't have any ROI on your investment because you can't garner any ratings or momentum or ad revenue, period. That's what it's all about at the end of the day is money. I mean, I know Soros has his own reasons for doing these kind of things, but try telling that to your board members and your CEOs. It's not going to work out. It's 11:49 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Let me be the first to wish you, my friend, happy Friday Eve. Matt Murphy in studio.
Hello. Hello, Mac. How are you?
Hello. I'm great.
Nice to see you. Hello,
See you
Chris.
as well.
Hello.
I have to tell you guys something. My heart is hurting today.
Oh.
And I'm going to tell you why. If I may.
By all means.
Chris, I know you a long time. I don't think there's a bigger supporter of the Chris Hand Show than Matt Murphy. Who's got 2 thumbs and loves my host from 9 to noon? This guy. But I turn on the radio today, and I feel like I've been stabbed in the back when I'm listening to him.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm with him on all of it. When Dan Mandis comes to me and says, I don't think this Chris Hand guy's working out, I said, no, Dan, give him a shot. Give him a shot.
Stick with him.
And then I hear him say that he's the number 1 show in jails and prisons in this state. No, sir. No, sir. I draw the line.
I have anecdotal evidence to support this.
I've got emails.
I got texts. I get text messages.
You know, I've hesitated because I think this guy's. I haven't done this bit. I want to. I've gotten like 40 of them.
I saved his name on the super text line as what's his name? Man,
my guy's name is Sean.